Well, I can't say your name without saying your full complete name, Jace Jerry Johnson.
Yeah.
It's the
Well,
coolest name.
no, I lucked out there. I think my parents wanted a name to stand out and make it easier for my name not to get skipped on job interviews and stuff like that, and so it's worked out. Let me tell you.
No, if I can't stop saying your whole name, I can't just call you Jace. That feels
Yeah,
weird. It's
it
Jace
does.
Jerry Johnson. So, no, I dig it. The first episode was me and Kyte, and we talked about you being in Okinawa when we both were down there and living in our four-man for a while. So
Yeah,
you'll be
yeah.
a
No, I
fun next
that's fun.
natural second episode.
Yeah.
Well, I guess a little background. Like, I kind of briefed you on what I'm going for,
Uh-huh.
but mostly I just got really curious. It's been 10 years and
Hmm.
I'm pretty bad at like making and maintaining friends. So, there's some of that behind it. And also, I just want to know where people are at.
Hmm.
I think about my mission and God and church and all that stuff every single day.
Hmm.
And part of that curiosity and that thought process is Japan and mission and my companions and where they're at and what
Hmm.
they're doing with their lives and what am I doing with my life and all this kind of stuff. So after sitting on that for a while, I
Hmm.
thought I'm like, we've got all this podcast stuff. My wife runs a podcast.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
kind of working on another like podcast project with a buddy of mine, and it just felt like okay, just do it. Then so here
Yeah.
we are.
Love it. Love it. No,
So
other
thanks for
than
being
like,
willing to deal with it.
no, I'm ecstatic, dude. Other than like brief Instagram messages back and forth, I think that it's been I've been wanting to reach out for more than just that, but I never thought I was cool enough to actually talk or hang out with the Brower.
Oh, don't give me that much
I'm
credit.
just I mainly Joe. Yeah, obviously just I think if we lived somewhere closer, we would have hit up at least a Watsky concert once or twice. I think is the
Oh my
we
gosh,
would we would have
yes.
gone at least once. So
Uh, you know, I fell off the Watsky train a little bit. Just he's not doing music really anymore, and his last like projects were I've already told you all this, but
yeah,
the last projects just weren't they didn't fulfill my
no,
Watsky obsession, and then I still put him on every now and then, but it's more like nostalgic now instead
yeah.
of like I'm in, man.
Hmm.
So,
No, I, I
but
I
to
went to
go would
one
be
of his
fun.
concerts. Actually, there was a concert I went to right before my mission, which is
Mm.
a fun one. But he's definitely like, don't get me, he's very talented, and he actually puts out some really good stuff. But it's almost like my buddies talked about how they went to a Froggy Fresh concert like not
Mm.
too long ago. How it's like a he's more of an artist than a meme for sure. But it's definitely a I don't know. I can understand as
A
you're like, oh,
novelty almost.
uh, more of a more of an artist than a meme.
Mm.
If that makes sense. Like he does real good stuff. I'm not ever trying to trash him, but it's more of like as you kind of grow up and stuff like that. There's like a yeah, he was great, but I don't know. Now
I'm
that I
over it,
have
or I've
now that I'm
matured
married
or
with
whatever.
now that I'm married with kids,
Yeah.
I think finger banging a dragon and punching or whatever thing is just it's not like the tone that I'm going for anymore, right?
Yeah, but will I get in my car and bump that song and sing every word still in my at my
Can I still
31st
do
year
it?
of
The answer
life?
is yes.
Yes.
Of course I can.
Well,
But
the fun and sad part is before COVID,
mhm,
he had a tour scheduled, and me and my wife were contemplating going to New York because that's where he wrote his the album that I like the most, his X Infinity album.
uh-huh.
We contemplated going to New York because he was doing like a special I wrote this album here and I'm performing it in New York
Mhm.
concert,
Mhm.
like a back-to-back 2-day concert, and we were like, let's go, and she was totally in, and we were like getting excited about it, and then COVID and his whole tour got canceled and
Oof.
all that. So
Dang.
yeah, pretty sad about that. Enough about Watsky, dude. Let's talk about it. I'm excited to hear from you. It's
Yeah.
good to see you. You're looking good.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Golly, you're married. You
Mhm.
got a boy, Mr. Joel.
Yep. Nah, dude, you did your research, yeah.
Give us the rundown of who you are now and what you're
Yeah,
doing. I mean, even your job. You said you're using your work laptop.
yeah, yeah. So I got back from my mission. I think, like many, you're kind of like, well, I thought by the end of this I might have an idea of what I want to do, and that wasn't the case for me. And uh, initially, I started out. I was thinking, like going into psychology, like the psychology
Mm,
route, but I always lean more towards like organizational behavior and things like that. And so the idea was going to IO psychology. Uh, Psychology is my major. Was starting to publish research with professors to kind of get that under my belt to get into a good school. And as I started doing research, and we did a couple cool publications with on topics that I was pretty interested in. It was stuff like how do you motivate different generational cohorts and things like that. I
mm.
was like, oh, like what's the next step now? This is really cool. Like, how do we tell people about this, or what's the next thing that we do to get this out there? And my professor at the time just kind of looks at me and goes, well, we just published some more. And then he turned his head back to his computer and started researching some topics. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't know if I want to do that. So I switched my degree and major to HR and data analytics. So
Mm.
honestly, the two of the most boring degrees that you could possibly get, but someone has to get it. And so I'm a big enough of a masochist to go the route. So yeah,
Self admitted.
yeah, self-admitted. I just like, oh, I like talking to employees who hate me and trying to make them happy. Um, it's a great time.
Bro, me too.
Yeah,
Me
dude. Yeah,
too.
that's what we do. That's what I live for. So, no, I kind of went that route. So I got my bachelor's in HR, and then I went to go get my master's. I have a master's degree in HR, and then a second master's, which there's a weird program at Utah State that lets you get two for less money and well, all that fun stuff. So, for a master's in HR and a master's in data analytics. And so the realm that I kind of work on is helping people in HR by doing a lot of statistics. And
Mm.
specifically, what I do is predictive analytics. So, hey, if you treat your employees this way, you can expect them to work this much harder. Or if
Mm.
you reward your employees this way, they will stay with your company this many more years. And we can predict that
Okay.
they will with this degree of confidence. So, again, as I'm
What
talking,
size
I'm
of
boring
companies are you
myself right
mostly
now,
working
but
with?
um, enterprise
Just
like
curious.
so. I work at OC Tanner right now. They primarily work with like
Okay.
enterprise, global, so they're pretty big for the most part.
Hmm.
Pretty big companies, at least what they're marketing themselves towards. But
Sure. Man, that's I'm I feel the similarities between what I do. Like
yeah,
I'm a operations manager
okay.
of
Oh, that's awesome.
a manufacturing medical lab that
Oh,
does
that's sick.
orthotics, so
Okay,
shoe inserts.
okay.
So I'm like what you described, but boots on the ground and
Yeah.
like face to face with people every day.
Hmm.
And just, I don't got the education behind it besides the communication degree, but it's just like on the job training and dealing with people and trying to help them. And we're a small enough business that HR is loose
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm kind of HR,
Yeah.
but it's occasionally like glorified babysitting or,
That is HR.
you know,
That
yeah, just trying to
that
like
is
motivate
the
people
function.
and be
Yeah.
like, do you realize that your life could be so much better if you actually like tried at something
Yeah.
or like,
We'd like
had
to.
had more solutions or ideas than complaints?
Yeah. No, for sure. No,
But
if I were in that position, dude, I would throw up in my mouth trying to like speak and say anything. I'm very lucky I have a job where I hide behind a computer and say, "Hey, well, here's the numbers. I'm gonna go run away now.
uh,
Avoid any human
no,
interaction."
I see the value because I try to run some numbers and things like that, but it's on a sticky note in my on my desk, and I passed like 1050 math in college, so I'm
That's good.
still using Chat GPT and Google to help me like come up with
Honestly,
stuff.
that's what every researcher does too.
Okay, well then,
You're not far off from anyone on a high horse who says, "I got it this way." Yeah.
I don't know, double masters. I'm feeling like I need to kind of.
No, no. It's dumb. It's all going to college is dumb. But the three letters next to your
Well,
name sometimes helps, I guess, is the best way that I can put it.
yeah, we can get into that a little bit
Yeah.
because I've Yeah, I'm curious about that too. Like, where did everybody go after the missions? Because
Yeah.
I left later.
Mm-hmm.
I got an associate's and then left, and then I came back and finished my bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
But
And with
like
that
there, you know,
communications.
yeah,
Okay.
I was kind of the same. I didn't know what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and communications is general enough that it applies, but also boring enough that like it doesn't mean anything hardly. But it was a fun degree.
Mm-hmm.
When I sat down one day just as a unknowing kid and looked at all the degrees that Dixie State offered,
Mm-hmm.
Utah Tech, I guess, Dixie State at the time, and I just like narrowed it down and went, "This sounds interesting." Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Mm-hmm.
I landed on a communication degree, so I did think it was fun. I enjoyed it. It has not served me necessarily
Yeah.
in getting my position, but here we are.
Yeah. No, I mean HR, I kind of get the drill a lot. Like it's an interesting thing where at the end of the day, really years of experience tends to be weighed the most.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, what should you weigh the most is a very tricky question because is it education? And honestly, there's not a whole lot of there's not a ton of research that says, hey, if you get these degrees, you're all of a sudden good at these things. If that makes sense, like there's not a again, I'll need to revamp my research there, but that's not the biggest indicator of whether or not someone's going to be successful or not. Other people without college degrees also tend to be just as successful, so it's not like the only thing that it shows is that you're willing to do some hard things, but that's about it. And then years of
Yes.
experience to some extent, if you've been doing something really bad for a long time, why does that qualify you more than? You know what I mean? It's a tricky thing, so at the end of
It's
the
like
day,
street smarts versus book smarts, though. Like
yeah.
in some industries, the street smarts are way more valuable than the
Oh
book
yeah.
smarts.
Oh,
But
100%.
conversely, I could say the same thing too. So,
Well, I mean, like there's some, like I'll say to some extent, like if your degree gives you a specific skill, then I can say that to me
mm,
like that was to some extent worth it. I don't know how worth it really is to have letters next to your name unless you have a really strong skill. And I guess the best way I
it
could, I have a
looks
couple.
cool.
Yeah, it looks cool. I have a couple people I work with who are like PhDs, and
Mm.
some of the things that they can do is just wild, right? Where you're like, okay, that definitely that 8 years has served you very well. You can
Because
do
they
some,
specialized really narrow into something that
yeah,
they got really, really good at.
they're the best at. Like I talk like a guy who's AI and psychology, who's like the top in the world, and just really impressive to talk to him. So like, again, I'm not one who harps on education completely, right? I think that there's some things that it can definitely help you with, but at the end of the day, too, like no experience, some college. It's so hard to really determine how skilled someone is based off any of those things,
Mm.
other than like I don't know. If you've been doing something for a long time, you can hopefully be calm in it. If you have some
Mm.
education in that, it means that you've done something hard at one point in your life, and maybe that's a good enough qualifier. But it's all tricky.
Yeah, there's times when, what am I trying to say? Like, for instance, in my situation, the business that I work at and
Hmm.
work in is when I started, there was only like 20 people,
Uh huh.
and now
Oh
we're
dang.
closer to 50.
Okay.
And so they were looking less for people who could come in and perform, and they were looking more for people who could come in and grow with the company and learn with the company and fail, but fail fast and
Uh
try
huh.
to like learn and improve. And so I got lucky, let's say, that I started at that point, became a
Hmm.
leader at this business, and now after years of like failing a ton,
Hmm.
I'm quite a bit better at what I do,
Yeah.
but it wasn't because I came in and was doing things right from day one.
Hmm.
They allowed me the opportunity to, okay, he's done with his degree, he's ready to like find a career, he works really hard. Okay, cool. Let's try to
Put him
help him
into a
help us.
leadership
And
role
yeah.
where, like, I mean, like I said, there's actually a ton of research on that idea of can I fail in my organization,
Mm,
and will the organization still value me as an employee? And typically, what a lot of organizations see is if people aren't afraid to necessarily fail, and fail in the sense of like I'm a leader, I try to like encourage people and motivate people to do XYZ project, and
mm,
we just didn't have the zest to get it done. but I tried my
Sure.
best, or like whatever it might be. Fail in the sense of like I try to do something.
No, you're speaking my
I
language.
ran. I said,
This
hey, like
happens a
maybe we
lot.
can do this thing, and that can motivate people to work a little bit harder. And it's like, ah, it didn't work, right?
Mm,
But you kept on trying. There's a lot of research on like, hey, if that person's still valued, even despite the failure, the amount of like innovations organizations sees are pretty crazy.
mm.
If they feel like they can stay, which I think is just cool of your company, cool of you. Um, I mean that would be the ideal, but that's definitely not the case for most workers.
Well, and this growing business has to have creativity and uh, yeah, creativity is like a not a forefront thing, but we are growing, and the only way you grow is by creative ideas, and the
Yeah.
only way that you can have creative ideas is if you fail a lot.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And then yeah,
100%.
dealing with my teams and stuff. Sometimes I'll go into a conversation with all these goals of like, yeah, I hope that this conversation goes this way, and then you maybe don't do so tactfully, or you had delusions of grandeur,
Hmm.
and you came out of that conversation like, well, we're worse for the wear now instead of better. So that was probably a better leader could have done that, but here we are, and now what? I think that's what's important. The now
Hmm.
what?
Yeah. And obviously you learn a lot along the way and makes you better at it. And I think you learn how to
That's
manage people better in the process too. Hard to
yeah,
motivate
it's
people.
I've worked there for 7 years, and I still am learning a lot every
Yeah.
single day of how to be a good leader. But
Awesome.
all right, man, let's run it back because you didn't know what you wanted to do post mission, but
Hmm.
let's run it back to pre mission. Little Jace decides to go on a mission for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Let's hear the reason. How old were you for one? Did you have some big experience, or did you always know and want to grow up to be a missionary? Um, how was your mission call?
Yeah.
Let's just run with it.
Let's do okay. So yeah, I think I was close to 16 when we heard that 18-year-olds could go on a mission, or when that like kind of came out and stuff like that. And I remember at that moment just feeling like, ooh, that feels really good. That'd be exciting. I think that seems like a good thing. But I think before that, like I definitely had very awesome parents who were religious, but definitely let us kind of do our thing, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so
You were born of goodly parents, were you?
I was very much born of goodly parents, really bunch of studs, really. No, they're both great. So it's interesting. As I look back at kind of that age and everything, like, or at least like getting on the mission and stuff like that. I definitely probably was your like stereotypical, extremely sheltered Utah mission boy type of thing. Despite the fact that my parents did a good job of kind of showing, letting us embrace the world and
Mhm.
letting us kind of make decisions for ourselves. And but I think just naturally I was that way. it wasn't
Okay.
it wasn't parents that were restrictive. It was just me. um, but no, I was a very just your average Joe. No, you're not average Joe. Kind of your just standard
Your average
Utah kid,
Jace.
your average Jace, your average Utah kid, kind of going up and stuff like that. But I
And
do
you grew up,
remember
where did you grow up?
Spanish Fork, Utah.
Spanish Fork.
Yeah,
Okay.
so just kind of a nice small little town. It's very quaint, wonderful little setup. Yeah, no, but I remember when that happened, when that call happened. I just remember feeling really good about that. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I think I might want to do that.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess to give you like I don't know some background to like I I I, I remember thinking about so as I'm 18 now, I kind of kept thinking like, should I wait before I go? Like I didn't see myself as a very mature kid by any means, and I also didn't like I don't know like I generally was like oh if I go on a mission I have to like learn a language I'm gonna do really bad. I don't do great in school. I not particularly smart. Maybe like a year would do me good. And so I remember kind of coming up to a stage where I was like, well, tell you what, I'm just gonna fast until I get an answer whether or not I should wait or not. Which is
Ooh.
such a dumb thing because there's nothing doctrinally that says you should do that. It was just a stupid like maybe this will work. So
So
I
you're
fast.
saying that testing God in such ways is maybe not
It's not. It's the dumb way to do it. It's very. It shows how
okay.
like I don't know. My again, if you read the scriptures, Jace, you would know that that's not what you're supposed to do. So I no, I prayed about it, and I just remember kind of like after like 30 or something hours, a little bit past what a normal fast would be, kind of getting like this like you've already gotten your answer. I know why you're doing this. You felt good a
Mm,
long time ago. You should go type of thing. So that was kind of my
sure.
experience with it, and kind of having like a oh yeah, that's right. Like there's no need to have this like I think this like grand display of like I'm gonna do this for this cool epic answer, and the answer was just you've already heard it, you already know. Um, so I
Mm,
remember kind of thinking that through and like okay, like you have to kind of pay attention to what you felt in the past and hold on to that pretty strongly. And so I remember thinking that I'm like okay, well I'm gonna go, it's the right thing. I'm excited. And then and then I get my mission call. My dad served in Japan. Everyone growing up called
mm.
me Asian, which isn't a very creative nickname or anything like that, but that's just like what people called me.
They
Um,
called you Asian
just Asian. That was literally like that. There wasn't like a so
because your dad served in Japan.
there was like they thought I looked Asian, and then my dad served in Japan. So come like my
Oh.
mission call, there's that little like board of a map that says like oh where do you think he's gonna go, and
Mm.
like two names in like the states, like one name in Europe, like saying oh Jace, my name is this. I think Jace is gonna go here. And then around Japan, there was just like 20 names that were just all like pointed around it. Everyone thought I was
Uh-huh.
going there, and I was like, "Oh, it's cool, like whatever." I guess this joke really hit well because everybody thinks that I am Asian and I'm gonna go somewhere like in an Asian country. And then I get the call and I see Japan. I start laughing. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's Japan!" And, people cheer and stuff like that. And then someone goes, "Well, where at in Japan, Jace?" And I just look up and I go, "Oh, it's the F word." I don't know what this is. So I got called to Fukuoka, Japan, and I didn't know how to pronounce it yet. So I don't think that's very different from most missionaries who got called to Fukuoka,
Oh.
Japan, who didn't know how to speak Japanese. But it's a good, it was a good
Yeah,
time
I
that
asked
way.
Kyte the same question. I was like, "So, did you say the F word when you opened your mission call?" And he's like, "No, because I kind of knew that it wasn't
It's probably
that."
not that, right? It can't be,
I'm pretty
right?
sure I said it right, but I stuttered a couple times, like
Yeah.
Fukuoka, maybe.
Huh?
Yeah.
um. Yeah. So that kind of happened, and I think it was like that happened. And then I was 3 months out till I would go on my mission, type of thing. So
Mm.
you start preparing. I started reading reading scriptures more intently. I think doing everything you're supposed to do, kind of preparatory. And then about a
Mm.
month before I went out, I just yeah, it was the worst thing ever. My dad died, and I just
Mm.
remember like I like there was like a whole day where I just laid on the ground and cried. And I think that that's kind of
Mm.
I don't know. It was rough, but it was about a month before I went out. Um,
Jeez.
and I remember there was this like moment where I was it was such a weird like 3 day thing. For the first 2 days just doing nothing but bawling, and then after that you plan a funeral, and you're at the funeral, and at that point like we're at the open casket, and like it was a weird moment where like you hit a point where like you can't cry anymore. At least I did.
Mm.
I don't want to speak for anyone or else or anyone else's grief or anything like that, but just it was just that you're kind of shocked a little bit. And then I my bishop called me one night and he's like, "Well, Jace, like I mean, you don't need to, but do you want to still go?" And I kind of remember thinking like I didn't even know like one I never even thought about that really. I kind of forgot that I was going at that point, and just kind of hitting like a weird like I already kind of knew that I was supposed to. And so that wasn't really
Mm.
much of a question. It was just like, well, no, I know I'm supposed to go, and stuff like that. But anyways, that's I guess the reason why that's relevant. I hate to make your podcast a major downer, but um,
Now
I
this is your podcast. This
yeah,
is your
thank you.
episode, bro.
I'm honored now. Um, no, that happened, and but I remember that feeling of like, no, I do need to go, and I think to some extent like it's pretty cool that my dad served there and I get to experience it
Mm.
too. So I just told him like no, I'm gonna go. That being said, I think when I got there, it did kind of impact a little bit of like a I don't necessarily need to be here. And there's I have a mom in mourning, a sister who's really struggling with the church and with gospel things, who is still at home and stuff like that. And so it's like there's a part of me that maybe this was very obvious, but I was like, I'm gonna make sure that there's not a minute wasted in this.
Mm.
And that kind of that's something to some extent. There's like a I worked really hard, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that experience to kind of push me to go, past my limits, because there's definitely moments where I've never worked that hard or studied that hard or done anything that hard, right? And I think that's the case
Mm.
for many people. Um, so I think that helped push things that way. But at the same time, I think that kind of did make me a pretty big like absolutist is what I would call it.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
I was very black
Your
and white.
standards were
I was
were up there.
like not better than anyone else's, and definitely looking back now, I wish I would have held it like calmed it down a little bit. But I do think I went out there and I was a fireball, black and white. This is good, this is bad, type of thing.
Mm.
And I don't think that that's necessarily the most Christ-like way of looking at things. As I've come to live out my life and learn more about Jesus, I think that that's in a way there was a lot of learning that needed to be done. In a way, there was a lot of hard work done, and I think that
Mm.
that's good. But I wish I would have. I do think that kind of helped or pushed me to be a little more. I don't know,
Mm.
a little more of a fireball in unnecessary ways.
Well, golly, first of all, that's hard to hear. Like that timeline is, I mean, your family just barely goes through that, and then all of a sudden, okay, bye, Jace. Yeah,
We're gonna drop you off,
see you
type of
in,
thing. But
yeah, see you in 2 years. It feels like I can see what you mean. That like in retrospect, you wish that it maybe fueled your mission different, or you would have been different. But for one, you were 18.
yeah, well,
You
yeah,
just went through this huge life event that like is a really big deal, and then you're thrown into something that then has the, I don't know what to call it, the purity fuel of like I want to make my dad proud, and
hmm
I get to share this experience with him because I heard about it my whole life, his stories, and we talked about it a lot before going, I presume,
hmm
and so you felt like this has to be pure,
yeah,
and so I can see where your absolutism kind of comes from in like I will be the perfect missionary that's absolutely
yeah,
obedient, and
yeah.
every ounce of me has to be contributed to this.
There's not a
I
second.
see
There's
where you're
not
coming
a
from.
even in my like personal thoughts. I'm not allowed to think about music that I like. It all has to be, you know what I mean. And that's going to be a lot for. I think that's a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah,
But
is it too much to ask what may have happened to your dad?
no, I definitely I. It was always hard to talk about. I think it's something that I've definitely tried to do a better job about sharing. But so my dad, he sleep apnea and narcolepsy. So he
Mm.
just sleep apnea made it so he never really slept. And he was such a nice, compassionate goober of a guy type of thing, but
Mm.
just he was always tired. Um,
Mm.
so he had four that he would take sleeping pills to help him sleep, but
Mm.
some of the pills actually make you extremely loopy. So we kind of what we think happened, and it's just unfortunate type of thing is he took a sleeping pill, was very loopy, but didn't sleep, wasn't asleep yet, didn't know,
Mm.
and like it took another couple sleeping pills and then
Mm.
died in his sleep. So definitely one of those like super. I don't know. Dumb. It's the
No,
worst way to
that's
lose
traumatic.
such a good person, but
Mm.
just I don't know. The poor guy just again he was always happy, always compassionate, and
Mm.
I don't. If I sleep like you know the nights where you get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep for a couple nights, you're like I'm crazy
Oh
right
my
now.
gosh, I'm wrecked. Yeah.
I'm going to yell at somebody if they say hello. Like that's the mental state of the average person, but He was extremely
The fact that
kind,
he was dealing with
compassionate.
that all the time.
That was just, yeah, that was ground zero. So good guy,
Oh,
terrible thing, but yeah, just that like I don't know. You almost wish that death you could equate it to something more meaningful meaningful in the sense of like they died doing something heroic or they died because they did something stupid. You know what I mean?
well,
It's
even if you know that they're going to die,
yeah,
that
or like there's the
lessens
time
the
for you to prepare.
sting somewhat.
But
You know,
this is
older
just
grandparents and things like that.
yeah.
That you're like, this is how it goes, and I can prep myself for it. And then okay, here it is, it's happening, or it happened. Sudden death is definitely a phobia of mine.
Yeah, no, and obviously it's a rarity. It's not something that just happens, but it or that frequently. But it was just kind of that right where it's like
Mm.
I don't know. And that also
I
kind of fueled. I unfortunately, so my MTC companion was Darren Rowe, and I think he had to deal with a lot of the random spurts of anger that I would have as a result
well,
of
yeah, man, you were still like raw, cut open, and then all of a sudden in this
let's
the
confine you to
whirlwind of
9 weeks in a
the MTC and
small
all that.
room.
Uh huh.
Good
With a
luck.
bunch of people that you may or may not like.
Yeah, I just happened to
Oh,
be. It was a weird thing too. It doesn't bother me now because I kind of agree with the sentiment, but I just happened to be in rooms with a lot of people that were like, "Yeah, man, Utah Mormons have never really experienced life. They've never really been through anything. They've been in a bubble their whole life."
it's like no, some people have been through some stuff.
Yeah.
I think we can get to this in a little bit, but when I like first met you, I didn't have any preconceived, oh, Jace lost his dad,
Hmm.
or Elder Johnson at the time. You were my new companion and we were going to do the thing. And I remember sometime into our companionship that I like found out that you had lost your dad. And
Hmm.
for a little bit, I was like, oh man, maybe I should treat him a little nicer or like a little different or whatever. And then almost immediately after, I was like, no, you should treat him how you were treating him because you were treating him well and just based off of your experiences with him. And I wouldn't want somebody to treat me differently just because my dad has passed away. My
Hmm.
dad has not, but in that scenario, like I wouldn't want people to treat me differently. So I kind of consciously chose to not ignore that about you, but to just not let it affect our relationship or uh, how I acted with you or something like that. So
No, no, I get it.
I can't even remember how
Yeah,
I
no,
found out, but maybe I just overheard or just understood eventually, or I don't know. I can't remember.
something I don't know. And maybe I brought it up, but like with an investigator or
Mm,
something like that. I don't. But you know, it wasn't something I really did talk much about with I think most really anyone.
mm,
Like and I think my philosophy behind it was like I don't know, like I didn't want to like use my dad as an excuse for any poor behavior because I felt like that wasn't fair to him.
sure.
So if it's like, oh, I'm not doing well right now, that's just because I'm struggling with other things. It's like, well, it's not your dad was better to you than that type
Yeah.
of thing. It was kind of my mentality at the time was like you shouldn't use that as an excuse. Like he was a good guy, so why would you? Like again, there's some good to that, right? That I think it helps you mature and grow up a little bit, but also I think to some extent that kind of shows maybe some of the fault in my thinking.
Hmm.
The idea of like you're not letting yourself go. That was a thing that happened and it sucked.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
especially where you were kind of in that absolutist mindset of, I'm being here. I'll bet you some of those thoughts of like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad, or
mhm.
thinking about your dad a lot. You probably were like, no, you can't. You're here to serve the Lord.
Like,
You can't think about your dad. Don't be sad about it. Work.
yeah. No, like to some extent that's I think to some extent like what I was thinking. A lot of it was like, I don't like. I shouldn't blame him for this. That's not his fault. And also like I'm here to work and to some extent I think that's also again I loved a lot of things. I have a ton of fond memories of the mission, but I also think to some extent that was the desired mission culture to some extent,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know if that makes sense. Like
No, they want you to be the white handbook is not flexible,
yeah,
it's solid and
it
absolute obedience is
exactly.
the only way. Yeah, I feel you.
Like to some extent, like that's what we were also taught a little bit. I don't want to.
No,
I
you felt
think
validated by
right
the
if
mission and your experience and what you were going through, it sounds like.
yeah. No, like I love I love Kaicho. I love I love a lot of the people, but I do think that maybe to a bit of a fault,
Mm-hmm.
and they maybe did not recognize the damage that that was to some extent. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, you should be super frivolous with general rules, like no, but more of like that you need to sacrifice, you need to give every ounce that you have, you need to forget home.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad for someone to go, I kind of miss home.
Sure.
Like you're not a bad person, and I don't know if they necessarily intended that, but to some extent, the outcome of I think some of the trainings and some of the vernacular used was that
Mm-hmm.
like you're kind of slacking or you're not up to par if you have this this idea of like if you're worried about home, and if you want to stop worrying about home, work harder. It'll make you stop worrying about home.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
like what I mean, like, and now that I'm in HR, I'm like, oh yeah, I do that today.
I was going to bring that up because I agree with you pretty wholeheartedly. A couple of thoughts are I wonder what the mission's like now because I think we were part of
Yeah.
a maybe last generation of missionaries that were maybe taught that. And pretty simply, I'm drawing this because missionaries can like call home now all the time.
Yeah.
And so I
Hmm.
feel like the mission kind of shifted to maybe understanding that a little bit more, which I can
Yeah.
appreciate that things change and adapt and we learn from our
Hmm.
mistakes, if you want to go as far as to call it a mistake to do it that way. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, being in HR and like in leadership, imagine working in a place where that's what you're told, man. Like, in order to get your
Hmm.
paycheck, you must be here 100% of the time. You are not a human outside of this place because when you're here, you're clocked in, you're on my time, you
Yeah.
perform, and that's it. Anything below a high, what do you want to call it? A high threshold or a high standard is
Hmm.
not good enough. Like I would work in that
Yeah.
type of workplace and nobody can thrive as a human and grow as a human under that much pressure. And they're also
Hmm.
humans, like celebrate them for their creativity. And as a bunch of young 18-year-olds where I believe part of the mission is meant to make you straight as an arrow, let's say, and learn
Hmm.
hard skills and learn how to buckle down and do something hard despite your feelings has a lot
Hmm.
of merit, but there's a right way to do that and there's a less right way to do that. And I think the
Yeah.
mission definitely flirted with the less right way.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was necessarily anyone like doing it for necessarily nefarious reasons. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously, I think there's people want to look good at the end of the day, right, and have higher hearts and souls.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think. I mean, just my relationship with like Kaicho to some extent. Like, I have no doubt that he loves me and he would do anything for me, right? At the same time, I also have no doubt that he wanted me to work as hard as I possibly could. And so that's not a fault to him. That's what he. I also think that like with the what you bring up right there is just like the evolution of the church.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the idea right is the church is supposed to be the body, make up the body of Christ. I can't remember Paul says that, but the idea is you're trying to make up the body of Christ, and the members make up the body of Christ. Like you would expect to see evolution throughout time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what we're seeing is kind of the church in general entering more of a nuanced or taking a more nuanced look at some things
Mm-hmm.
like this absolutism, this 100% devotion may not necessarily actually be what everyone needs or what's actually helpful for everyone, and may not be what's the most successful. Like again, you pull it back to the organization parable, like that doesn't work for everybody. Telling people that they're not human, and I'm not saying that that's what the mission did to me, but to some extent, like some of the some of the vernacular that you're using and some of the things that you're doing like can lead to some of that.
Hmm.
And I do think to some extent that can be a little problematic.
I agree with you, and I think you probably ruffle some feathers of, let's say, the demographic of the church that we go to here in St. George is like
Mhm.
the median age is probably like 74.
Okay.
I bet you if you were to share that, what you just shared, you'd probably ruffle some feathers because of the old generation of church. And I think that this is probably a pain point for some people in religious beliefs is like, if truth is truth, there's one truth, kind of the
Mhm.
absolutist truth. And so if the church changes all the time, this, it probably
Yeah.
rocks some testimonies, I imagine, but there's
Mhm.
there's two ways to look at it, and I think what we've described is mostly the positive way of,
Mhm.
yeah, we're adapting, we're changing, we are human, and it's very hard to be human. We have some
Yeah.
guideposts and scriptures and, let's say, prophets and things that I have a hard time having a testimony in, if I'm being honest. But people that do believe
Yeah.
and are there, it probably makes sense that, yeah, of course, continued revelation. That's the whole point. The church lives and breathes and adapts and evolves, is the word that you
Mhm.
said.
Yeah. Well, and that's not new. So
Mm-hmm.
to some extent, there's like I think having testimony in traditions is dangerous,
Mm.
and I think that that's not just our church. I think that's just for any church goer or any, or not even just church. I think that's anything.
Mm.
Like I think the idea of like we've always done it this way, so that's how we need to do it. Again, I don't know if that's always the best way to look at things. I mean, to some extent, right? Like the church has kind of moved away from like, hey, like it used to be pretty clear cut, like, hey, don't get tattoos. And maybe they were coming from a point of like, hey, getting tattoos at this point in time kind of represented maybe something to do with gangs or something like that. I don't know exactly why that happened, but that used to be a pretty strong thing, right? A belief held by the church and tradition that held on to. It wasn't necessarily doctrine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that you take a look at something like that and go, like, well, that's an absolute. So anyone who has a tattoo must be bad,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's not a healthy way to look at it. And you see how the church has kind of changed, where they don't specify that anymore. Partly because there's cultures out there that getting tattoos like a strong part about
Mm-hmm.
being like accepted within your culture, and that's not what you want to do. You don't want to tell people that they can't embrace their own cultures where they've grown up from,
Sure.
right? And at the same time, it's like I think teaching people that anyone who has this or deviates from a specific thing, like a standard a long time ago, is no longer good.
Mm-hmm.
Again, kind of going back to black and white thinking, I think that's extremely problematic too, because the idea is we're trying to become like Christ, and Christ, don't get me wrong, he very like he would preach doctrine, he would preach it boldly, but he loved everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I again, the biggest thing that he fought against, the only people that he was ever, I wouldn't say like, I don't know, it's hard to say, like rude or
Mm-hmm.
super blunt against, were Pharisees,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the people who held on to very stringent things,
They were trying
right?
to keep the
So
rules and say, "Hey, man, this is against the rules."
and did it extremely like, I don't know, like they were bullies. I
Mm-hmm.
think is a very light way of saying what they were doing, and that's who Christ was the most hard on. He was not hard on people who struggled or,
Mm-hmm.
so I just think that we were at a unique time where we saw missions as being, maybe a little more black and white. Maybe people were just trying their best. Maybe the church was like, I'm not trying to say that it was bad per se, but I just don't. I think it's cool that we're starting to move past that way of thinking, and I think it's starting to be encouraged even within the church too.
Yeah, no, and I can appreciate that. I mean, I've worked at the same place for 7 years, so it's hard to frame my world without thinking through my work lens. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but if I'm to think like, okay, God is all knowing and all, he knows everything. So if
Yeah.
God is actually living through prophets and Jesus Christ is living and involved in the church and there's
Mhm.
continued revelation and stuff, what makes sense to me is kind of what you explained, that I can look back at my first or second or even third year or even last year for that matter at my job and
Mhm.
think, oh my gosh, it's so silly that we used to do things that way.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that we evolved, but we needed to do things that way to then evolve to where we're at now.
Mhm.
And so, why would it be any different in God's church? Like, perfection doesn't exist in the human world. And so, how could we expect that from the church or from, anybody, prophets or,
Mhm.
um, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense
Yeah.
also
Well,
that
I
on a
mean,
mission, you're going to set rules and things that will be capture the breadth of
yeah.
what is probably pretty good. And it's
Mhm.
really hard to tailor like specifically to every mission president or whatever. You got to really look at your people and be human. It's a very much easier in a human world to say, okay, here's a handbook, try to follow the
Mhm.
handbook. And so I can't blame anybody for how they've acted, let's say by the book or by being super strict or whatever, because if you're going to be successful and accomplish, and that's the way that we know how to do it right now,
Mhm.
I can't, I don't want to be faulted as a leader at work for doing something like that because I was trying my
Yeah.
best and I have a hard time. I'm the same. I appreciate Kaicho and wish that things were a little bit different in the mission, but I have a hard time faulting him because he freaking loved all of us. I think that's congruent,
No,
you know?
I mean, I know my mom loves me, I know my wife loves me, and I know that Kaicho loves me.
Uh,
So, like, you know what I mean? I don't
absolutism.
fault him. I don't fault. Yeah, yeah. There you go. I've never outlived it. I'm actually the exact same person.
Yeah.
Um, no, but like, I think 100% right.
Mm,
I think that there's some room for nuance, and I think that teaching people to maybe think that way is an important thing to receive revelation, to try to coordinate, like align yourself with God to the best
mm.
of your abilities. And to some extent, like rules help people get onto maybe get near the path.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way they are intended to be there. But to some extent, you still have to, I think, receive revelation and do your part, or else, and by your part, I mean make that connection with Christ, or else, like the rule, like again, I think believing in traditions is a scary thing because I don't think that actually gets you anything.
Mm.
It just lets you live a culture that may be changing, right? It's not actually helping you get closer to God per se.
Pretty simply, I wish that I was not taught to fear the gray area that is near the rod, but
Hmm.
maybe not right next to it.
Yeah.
I I feel like throughout my whole life I was communicated to via church and on the mission that anything but right on the rod is like bad, man. Like
Hmm.
I remember you brought up tattoos. I remember getting my first tattoo and just being like internal turmoil for a little while, like,
Hmm.
do I do this? You know?
Hmm.
And then, yeah, you do it, and a couple tattoos later, it's like, okay, I feel a little more okay about it.
I still feel good about things. And maybe, I mean, I remember at one point somebody once asked somebody about a tattoo that a strong church member, like, hey, why'd you get this tattoo? Like,
Mm.
it's against the church. And like, they're kind of frustrated at the person. The person's like, I got the tattoo to remember my mom who died.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason for this.
Uh,
Like, it's not I didn't do this because I was a bad person. And I don't know. So just to that point, right? Like, I can understand it. You appreciate, well, like it's grown.
mhm.
And I think to some extent, like, you you do need to receive revelation. You do need to try to develop that relationship with God. And I don't think that rules necessarily. I don't hate them or
Mhm.
not against them, but I just think that they don't necessarily help you develop that relationship that's up to you. And so, like, maybe the things that you do on the side that may, I don't know, I don't even say deviate from rules because technically it's not doctrine, right?
Mhm.
It's not a you know what I mean? It's just yeah,
Well,
just along the lines of what you said. It's not.
feels like some of the first missionaries went out on a mission with zero rules, and they were told, spread the gospel. That's your charge. You're charged with that.
Mhm.
And then they had no rules, and then we went to like white handbook, read it
Here's what we
every
do.
day. It's got to be on your person. It's not flexible. It's rigid.
Yeah,
And now maybe the needle's
yeah,
moving back to like, okay, yeah, we understand that you're 18-year-olds and left to your own devices, you'll probably burn the place down.
yeah.
But we also understand that we're trying to trust you as missionaries, and you receive your own revelation as set apart messengers of Christ. And so let's
Mhm.
try to bring it back. We trust you a lot more, and it's hard to trust 18-year-olds with the future of
Yeah,
God's church. So,
yeah. No, like, again, you appreciate it, but you also like. I do think the idea is if the idea is to become like God, I think trying to develop that relationship's the most important thing.
okay.
And so leaving people up to that, like, how do you do that?
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. Well, then we'll here's some scriptures. Here's
Sure.
some prayer. We have modern like, and I think that that's I kind of see it moving that way for the most part, and
Mhm.
it's something that kind of excites me because I think to some extent that's I think that would have helped a lot of some of the negative attributes that I may have had even starting my mission, right? So
Yeah, well, let's say that I'm imagining that this is a matured mindset, and that when you were on your mission, as we talked about, you
no,
weren't you weren't quite
I
there.
was no. I
Sure.
think that you probably could have. I'm curious to see what yours and Elder Kite's experiences of me were because
Uh,
I think that I was not that at all.
well, we can let's start to get there. So, excuse me. You had MTC 9 weeks. Okay,
9 weeks.
9 weeks.
Really good time. I was very lucky. I had a really cool. Everyone around me was really great.
Okay.
I mean, there was a couple dorky things where I got way too mad at people saying Utah people were sheltered, but that was
Defend
probably
the
the one
Utah
thing that
people. Gotta defend them.
yeah, you're that's like I think looking at it now, I'm like, yeah, I think that Utah has its cool little bubble.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of problematic at times, and maybe
No, I
you
called
know,
it Me and Kite just kind of laughed about it. It was like when you're in the Utah bubble, it's a good place to be until you have
mhm,
a peek outside, and then you try to come back in, or you're talking to
yeah,
somebody who's not had a peek outside, and you're like, you don't
mhm,
understand the world.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
I know. I
MTC,
think that that's a good way to put it.
and then so I was Okinawa like my last 6 months. What
Yeah,
did your mission up until Okinawa look like?
yeah. So I was in Itaman, the smallest or not the smallest. It was actually a huge area, but the most southern part of Okinawa.
Okay.
So I was there for 6 months
Uh,
for 4 transfers, 2 different companions. My trainer was awesome.
mhm.
I really tried his best. I obviously worked as hard as I could, but also, I mean, to some extent, there's some struggle there too.
Yeah.
I This is kind of a side note. I found out later on, but my wife she would start reading with. So this is I'm in college now, and I'm reading with my wife, and she's an English major, and she kind of looks at me like, "Did you mean to do what you just did?" And I'm like, what are you talking about?" It's like, "You read the wrong word a couple times." I'm like, "No, wait, what?" It's like, "Yeah, you read the wrong word." And then she noticed on my phone I had everything blacked out. And so she searched up some stuff and was like, Jace, it says that people with dyslexia will skip words, misread words, switch words up in their minds, and then prefer blackout like language.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Anyways, I'm dyslexic, so
Okay.
we found that out a little bit later.
Okay.
um, so
Thanks,
I get
wife.
the
They're
mission.
good for a lot of things,
Yeah,
right?
they're so great. They're like, Jace, that's not normal.
You're like,
If anything, it's like, Jace,
my whole
that's
life
not a
up to
normal
this
way to.
point,
Yeah, wait, what?
nobody
You're telling
did.
me
Nobody
those
told
summers
me.
I spent reading
Uh-huh.
extra at school because I was way behind was
That was
actually
your
because
fault,
oh,
Jace. It had nothing to do
that was
with
because I was not
dyslexia.
a good reader.
Yeah,
It's because I was not. Yeah,
figure it out.
no, figured it out. Anyways, so anyway, I was so obviously struggled with the language, but he was super cool to just kind of be patient with me. And my next companion was Elder Halka. Elder Halka was awesome. Fireball. He was cool because like again, I was pretty like I want to do as much as I can out here.
Mhm.
So he used to run door to door with me. Um, yeah, he was awesome. So we would run door to door.
Literally, I just
It
want to
was
clarify. Literally.
Literally, we were running. I'm not joking. We were literally running door to door because we wanted to talk to everybody in that small, or not, that's in the most southern area of Okinawa. So
Okay.
that was really good for me, I think, to like be able to feel like I could. Again, I'm not saying that was the right way to
Uh
think
huh.
about things, but he was cool to indulge, me and work really hard with me in that sense. So I really appreciated him. He was such a sweetheart too. And then I get the call. I thought I was gonna stay in Itumon because transfers came and nobody called me.
Mm-hmm.
And then
What
at
the?
like 8 o'clock, our zone leader called me, not the assistants, and just said, "Oh, by the way, you're gonna go to Futenma tomorrow. Pack your bags."
What
I'm
the
like,
heck?
okay, cool.
And you waited all
That's
day?
sick.
I hated that.
All day.
I hated
No, it
that.
was the worst thing ever. And I just never got the call, so I'm like, oh, cool. I'm gonna stay here. And then yeah, got the call. Anyway, so I move up like a 30-minute drive to Futenma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, awesome, like a military base area too. I loved I loved a lot of aspects of Futenma. There were some parts that were pretty hard for me getting in there. I think like working with a lot of the military members was so special and really cool in a lot of ways. And then there were some members who like were mad that we ever engaged with the Japanese members. It felt like,
Mm. Weird.
and to some extent, it was like, hey, we want you to do more member missionary work, and we're like, yeah, we'd love to. How can we do that? And to some extent, there was a part of it was like it felt like, well, you should just want to know how to do that already. You should just know how to do that. You should be doing it already. So we shouldn't even have to tell you to do that. It was a really weird.
Mm.
When I first got there, it felt really weird because the military members were pretty frustrated at us. The bishop wouldn't shake my hand, wouldn't make eye contact with me initially,
Huh.
and it was like, and I remember like, why is this the case? This feels so odd, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, like it was just like, I don't know, it's just kind of how it is. And I guess some sister or some missionaries at one point had frustrated some of the leadership there, but
Mm.
anyways, I just remember feeling really weird getting weird vibes from them. And then just like, well, we served Japanese missions our whole life, our whole missions up to this point. We don't know what to do.
Mm.
We can't proselyte on the base.
Yeah.
We can't just go visit the members. We need somebody to let us in. So it was a
They
weird
wanted the
time.
priority, but
Yeah,
couldn't.
they wanted priority, but like at the same time too, my companion there was really awesome. But I just think that there was like, to some extent, it's like, well, we don't know what to do, so we're just gonna do what we know how to do. Is kind of what it came down to.
I remember I can kind of piggyback on this sentiment, less with the bishop, but more with the ward mission leader.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah,
He was like
really good guy, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
anti Japanese almost like
It was bad. Like again, I think he was just frustrated
Mhm.
with the way that things were. But I got pretty annoyed when I remember one of us used the word eikaiwa instead of free English class,
Oh yeah, and he flipped a lid.
and he got really mad at us for that. And I was about to like, dude, you. I mean, at that point, I was a missionary. I could call him into repentance and tell him to back off, but it would not have been the smart thing to do.
Yeah,
That
no.
was that was probably one of the most frustrating parts of my mission of like, I don't know, you privileged American a hole. Like,
Yeah. No, and there's
you're in a foreign country. We like these people. Knock off. Like, they just
and you're trying to
get over
make
yourself type of
nice
thing.
because as a missionary you kind of are
He's
you got the name of
we need to
Jesus on your
be.
chest.
Yeah, you
So,
can't tell him like, dude,
yeah.
what the hell are you
Yeah.
doing? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't parse it. Just I was so
How
mad at
dare
that,
you
and
say hell? No.
I
It's
just I don't know,
I remember being like having a meeting or something with him and then being like, "Okay, yeah, we're not going to work together, really."
it's not going to be a good.
Yeah,
And
so
he did a lot of things really good, and he did love missionary work. Like they're good good guy in a lot of ways. I just think for, again, I'm brand new, just moved there.
Mhm.
He's scolded me already a couple times because I've said a Japanese word in front of him, which feels really weird when we live in Japan.
well, it's also like, dude,
Um,
I came from a year and a half of
yeah,
it never was English class. I don't know
Yeah.
it as English class. I know it
I don't
not
even know
because I
that. Like
speak
I'm saying, I'm
Japanese. I know it as eikaiwa. That's just what it is. It's like an iPhone is an
no,
iPhone or headphones are headphones.
no, exactly.
Eikaiwa is eikaiwa. That's just how it was.
Hmm. And even English class isn't even the right translation of that. That's just what you know what I mean. Like it's just
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel you. I feel
Good,
you. That guy.
good.
I guess blessings to him, but also
I think again, you kind of like he doesn't know, but again, a brand new missionary who's trying his best, and then having a bunch of people tell him like you're not doing enough. It's like I mean, at this point, even in my brain, I'm not even thinking about home.
mhm,
And any intrusive thought that I would dare have about thinking, oh, I'm kind of sad about what's happened to me a month before I came out, like,
mhm,
I've tried to push away. And then you get like, you're not doing enough.
mhm. Yep.
Guess you should know what to be doing better. And you're like, okay,
It definitely was
sorry,
a
guy.
big change going from like 8, 12 member branches, my whole mission, to all of a sudden the Okinawa ward, which is my biggest Japanese ward, and
Hmm.
250 military members, and trying to like
Yeah.
I
How do you
didn't have
navigate
much
this?
like culture shock coming back home because my culture shock happened at that when I moved to Okinawa.
Yeah.
It was like,
It
whoa,
was
what
it's
is
a
this?
wild, wild spot, right?
That's like
And
Americans are
I,
like straightforward and rude and like, what is this?
mhm.
Why are we like this?
Yeah. Well, like a lot of the people who were, it was an interesting thing too. A lot of the members there were stellar, and a lot of the military members were just absolutely stellar too. But some of like the civilians working there that had been there a little bit longer, I don't, I just they didn't seem to like us much for at least when I first got there. It felt that way, right?
Yeah,
But
I mean,
no,
we did what we could.
yeah, yeah, no, my companion there, he was a great guy. Just his thing was like, this is what I know what to do, so we're gonna just do this.
Who? So you moved in. Kyte was in the apartment.
Yeah, he was a yeah. Kai was there.
So
My
Kyte
companion was Elder
Rodriguez,
Stennett.
you and
So it was Kite and a guy, an Elder Bergner,
Bergner. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Bergner, and then I think you came in with Elder
Or
Ramirez,
you're Rodriguez. Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. Oh, sorry,
Oh, so we both
Elder
transferred. Yeah,
Rodriguez.
that's right. Because we showed up at church together, and I was like, "Hey,
Hmm.
nice to meet you." Whatever.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
Oh.
yeah, so my companion was Elder Stennett, and Elder Stennett was
Uh-huh.
awesome, incredible Japanese, and I think to some extent just like, look, I know Japanese proselyting. This is what I'll do.
Mhm.
Really good guy. And again, I think that he was so great for me. I think that companionship was really good for me because up to this point, right, I'm pretty like, hey, what can I do to improve? How can I be better? I want to be the best that I can. I want to be the best that I
Mhm.
can. Like, that's kind of my mentality going into it. And he's like, oh, you're doing everything right, Elder Johnson. You're doing great. You're doing great. Doing great.
You're like,
And he's super
what?
nice guy. No, just super nice guy. Incredible missionary. One of the best at the language. But at our last like meeting, right before he left,
Mhm.
his feedback to me was like, "Hey, Elder Johnson, I think you need to work on not being a Pharisee." Was his like last bit of feedback to me before he left, and I was like, "Oh man,
Got you right in
if I
the.
had known, like maybe I should have calmed down or something like that." But at the same time, I can understand why it's hard position for him because it's like technically you're doing everything
Mhm.
right to some extent, right? I'm not saying I was actually a great missionary to that extent. Like I was the best that I could be, but my philosophy kind of going into it was a little flawed. So he was a great guy. He gave me that feedback, and I think that was really important for
Mhm.
me. And one of my probably because of that a very important companion to me because I needed to hear that really bad.
Mm.
But yeah, he gets in or he that whole thing happens. I'm like, okay, I need to change. I need to be a little bit better that way. And how am I being a Pharisee and stuff like that? And then we get you come in, and here's I'll go through kind of my
Please.
impression
Yes, please.
of that. So again, flawed thinking. You came in. It's interesting too because I think you came in right around June.
Mhm.
So it was like, yeah, this all makes sense later. Very glad this meeting happened for this reason, but that was about the anniversary my dad had passed away.
Mhm.
And so I've actually recognized this now in my life. So I'll kind of get back to the mission stuff. But every single June,
Mhm.
like I'll randomly feel just terrible,
Mm.
and it just happens every single. every single year it's cyclical at this point. My wife just kind of gets to the point where she's like, hey, do you want to take a day off work? Do you want to just relax? You know, she's
Mm-hmm.
very sweet with it, and I'll take a day and go on a hike and just stare at nature for 8 hours and then be back. But anyway, so it was right around that time. I had just been, I've been doing a lot of reflecting because obviously I was not the best that I could be, and in the sense of like I was somewhat of a Pharisee, right? At least in his eyes. I see you. I'm like, hey man, how's it going? I go in to give you a hug, and you just kind of look at me really weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I give you the hug anyways,
Uh-huh.
right? Because I don't understand social interaction. So I give you a hug. I'm like, hey man, I'm excited to be your companion. You're like, cool, dude.
Uh-huh.
How you doing? I'm like, oh, good. All right, cool. And so we start like we help you to the. You start talking to Kyte because he had served in an area that you had served in,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of chat about that area for the rest of the time. And then I remember right before like it's time to go to bed, I was like, oh, cool. Like, well, tell me about yourself. Like, what do you like to do? And you're just like, yeah, no, I just like doing some cool things around St. George, whatever, just chilling. It's something like that. And I just remember like, this is gonna be hard.
Fair enough.
Yeah, which was done. But anyways, that was the initial impression that I had. Like, being like that was like the first like. There's that. There's this like cool, calm, like yeah, like whatever, dude, type of like mentality. I'm like, oh. But then,
Like, I want to
and
run
this isn't
between doors, and this elder's not gonna do it with me.
like like again, this is the guy who literally would want to run doors, and I'm like, well, this is gonna be different.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But so that was the first impression. This isn't just me saying this because you're here. But as far as like I look back, like probably the most impactful companions for me on my mission, I'd have to say like was you,
Okay.
and like one of the relationships that meant the most to me on my mission was you. And you might be like, I don't even know how you were the most absolute missionary when I got you and when you left, but I'll kind of explain why. Like I think up to that point, right, I was anxiously always working as hard as I could to try to do things like the right way.
Mhm.
And I think like you brought a really good calming presence to that, where like you did it in a very funny way, but you would make fun of me and elevate me at the same time.
Hmm.
I don't know how to like if that makes sense. Like you would like
Do you
Elder
have
Johnson.
examples? Like, I obviously this is 10 years ago, and I'm curious.
No, like you would say stuff like, "All right, Elder Johnson, we get that you do everything perfectly, but I'm gonna need you to calm it down."
Uh,
Like there's these things of like you would kind of like, "Hey, you're doing good, man. You're an awesome missionary. Just stop rubbing your nose like a weirdo." And then you'd call me a chipmunk. And I
that's
think it kind of like I don't know if you remember that. That was one of my
a
favorites.
little bit, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I remember one time I was like on a phone call and you used to make fun of me for like I would always pace when I was on the phone. I remember
Dude, I
like
I
you
boxed you
kind of
in with furniture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I'm walking back and forth between rooms and stuff like that and so you started like putting chairs up to our like little office room.
Uh-huh.
And so I started going to the other room and then like you had like other Rodriguez and Kyte kind of block off that area. And like this is I think it took me like a while to really recognize what was even going on because I'm in a conversation, I'm pacing like
Yeah,
I don't
you're
know. So
locked
I just thought
in,
like
bro.
I'm getting more cornered in almost like you would a chicken or a cow as you're corralling it where it's like, "Oh, I guess I'm not going there now."
Uh,
So I'm just like walking around the table, and then I kind of recognize like you put chairs out, so I have to like go around the other way, and then they Rodriguez and Kite like block me off on the other. So I went underneath the table to try to get out while I'm on a phone call, and then you just like all like came in and like used your legs to keep me in there until the phone call was over, and I was just like laying down on the. So,
I can't.
anyways,
Yeah.
like I think what I mean by like I think you like were able to kind of joke around and kind of bring a level of levity for me,
Mm.
but also kind of made me feel more included in the group. Because at that point, I'm sure other, I don't know what Kite's thoughts of me, my first impressions of me were, but I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure he's like, man, this guy makes me nervous. Like this guy's, he's way too much. Like I don't know, I don't know if what he thought, but I'm sure that it was hard. But to some extent, like it made me feel like I was a part of like a group. We're
Mm-hmm.
all joking around with each other, but there's still like a lot of care in what we're actually doing and
Mm-hmm.
what the most important things were. So it may never have seemed like I was this way, but it felt like you being my companion helped me kind of what is the most important thing that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of, and actually one of your training meetings was one of my favorites, was the why.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself why 3 times and you'll get to the root of everything. Kind of helped me start to do the, yes, these rules are important. Yes, these like sacrificing for this is an important thing, but the most important thing is this to me, right? And so I would hold on to that and kind of move on. So I only had you for a transfer up to that point. I had all my companions for a couple transfer, and while I love all my companions, I think they're great people. I think that was, I don't think any one of my companions tried so much to help me just kind of calm down.
Mm.
I think so. That's why it's when you bring up like, hey, I knew about your dad, but I didn't know how to like treat you different. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it was a weird way, but like being your companion to me kind of felt like a reprieve because I didn't have anybody who was frustrated at me for how stringent I was,
Mm-hmm.
but kind of just joked at me about that. Like, okay, Elder Johnson, let's calm it down. Like, could kind of pick a fun of that and just kind of help me see, like, oh yeah, that is kind of silly. Yeah, I don't need to be this way.
Mm.
Who wouldn't get mad at that, but then champion some of the good.
Mm.
I think you would always like, you would elevate me in certain ways of like, look, I know Elder Johnson, like, you want to run, that's awesome. Like, I don't want to do that, and we don't need to do that, and that's okay. Like, but I appreciate that you have that. Like,
Mm.
you kind of like, I don't know. So, one of my most impactful companions that way. I don't know if it's necessary for me to go through every single companion at this point. I think that's kind of my experience of Okinawa,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that that helped me the most for the rest of my mission. I think that that was kind of heaven sent to that extent. But
Um,
yeah.
that is, it's fun to hear. I've I want to say, in my introspection of my own life and who I am, like I never want to be a bully. I never want to be
You never
rude,
were, but
but I do want to like I do want to be honest with people and treat them
mhm,
well, but I I, I don't know what to say. I kind of feel validated maybe is the feeling.
mhm.
Because I'm really happy that it was received that way because it was kind of meant that way. Like
Yeah.
getting you as a companion, dude. Our first, I had a good laugh about this with Kyte because my
Mhm.
first impression of you was I came down to Okinawa. We're in the sacrament room, just waiting for you guys to finish teaching. I'm with Rodriguez. Just got off a flight. Things are chill. I'm ready to like. I'm thinking in my head, this is my last area. I'm gonna die here.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be maybe my second to last companion. Let's do this. I'm in my sunset years, and then yeah,
Mhm.
you come in with like this just excited, hysterical energy,
Yeah.
this like this right here, like Elder Brower, so excited to meet you, and like you come in with this hug, and I was like floored with this first impression. I was like, oh, um, yeah. So I think what you experienced the very first was a shock, maybe.
No, yeah, just like, dude, we need to tone this
It's like,
down
oh
immediately.
yeah, it's like, all right, knock about 25% off there, bud, and let's
Yeah.
let's get to this, and then yeah, I tried to scour my emails a little bit. I was able to like export my mission email. So I have every email I ever sent and like received on my mission still available to me. So
Mhm.
I scoured that kind
That's
of
awesome.
before jumping on with you and tried to look for if I wrote my first impression or like tried to look at some of those emails right around that time in end
Mhm.
of May, beginning of June. And I think at that point I was pretty done writing emails. So it was quick.
Yeah, it
But what I wrote was
was.
like, yeah, my new companion's pretty awesome. He's way better than I am, but it's going to be a good transfer. I think is what I wrote as my first impression to you when I wrote home.
That's
Uh,
funny.
so it feels like we were on the same page where like, yeah, you were maybe up here as far as like, we're missionaries, we're going to get it, we're going to do everything. And I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, and we're also human and the people we're teaching are human and we're
Yeah.
going to just like try
Maybe we need to
to
calm it
yeah, let's
the
let's
freak down, Jace.
let's calm it down and your cute little chipmunk thing
Yeah.
is I still think it's cute and fun, but not in like
Well,
a
thank you.
a bully way, but I always worried that
No,
I
I
was a
never
little
felt
too
that
mean.
either.
So
No, no, no. I never felt that. That was, like I said, it was, I think, heaven sent in a lot of ways to calm down.
hmm.
I think was one of the things that I learned. And by calm down, I mean be at ease and let
Hmm.
yourself feel peace, which was really important.
No, and those were the times. I mean, like, dude, we had some good times. I remember we worked hard. We were hardworking missionaries. We did a lot of
Hmm.
stuff. Were you there when we baptized the Haitian military member?
No,
So
no,
you
that's I had left at that point.
okay? Couldn't remember. I'm trying to think of anything significant that happened while we were there. That was my one baptism. Was a Haitian
No,
military member.
that's awesome. No, like I think the thing that I would say that we did that I feel like was the most eventful is, and maybe you didn't feel like this, but like the attitude. I remember my last transfer, the bishop got over the pulpit and said, "Hey, I've met with these missionaries. They're hardworking missionaries. If you've been holding on to a referral, these would be good missionaries to give them that
Hmm.
referral to." I don't know if you remember that,
Mm,
but I do think that that's what I would say is like the if we had any major achievement
yeah.
to like put down there, right? I think that that was it because and kind of going back to like what I mean, like I wanted to try to help the military members, but like we never knew how.
But
And
maybe
to some
we
extent, I was
changed the
always
mentality or something.
yeah, like
Okay.
I was the junior companion, so I'm like, well, maybe we should try. It was kind of like, well, we don't know how to do that, so we're gonna do what we know how to do,
Hmm.
right? And so when you came in, there was a degree of like, you want to work with the like they want us to work with the military members. We should try. And you're like, well, what should we do, Jace? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe we could do this.
It's
You're
like
like,
you're
cool.
area
Let's go.
senpai, so
I remember you. I think I was like, all right, do it, Jace. Make the
uh,
call. Here's the phone. And I remember being like scared at that, like, oh, because again, all my companions are awesome, but it's like that was their job. And I was
mm,
always like, well, maybe we should try to. Maybe this is the best way. I want to do this. And they're like, Jace, calm the freak down. We're just gonna do what we know what to do.
uh,
I think that that was very much like a you kind of like let me fail that way.
mm.
I would call people on the phone and I sucked at talking to people and you would make fun of me like that's definitely a robot conversation, but you did a good job of scheduling that appointment, Jace. Like there's stuff like that
I
where it
do
was like
remember saying things like that.
like it was like,
It's
do
a
you not
little
know how to talk to
robotic, but
people,
yeah, it
Jace?
went well. Yeah.
Well, you did the right thing,
Uh,
right? Like, and I think to some extent it helped me fail more often and fail upwards, and so.
no, I
But
trusted you. I
it
trusted you a
that's
lot. I mean, you knew the area more than I did, and you had good ideas, and that's where I looked up to you quite a bit. If I'm honest, like I what I said in the email was, a quick one liner, let's say, but I think it was true. I went on my mission and felt this way pretty much a lot of the time. I was older, I was 21, went into the MTC
mhm.
with a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds, and they all had way bigger testimonies than me and they knew way more than me. And so I was there to like listen and learn from people that like knew how to be missionaries, let's say.
Mhm.
Because I maybe knew how to get along with roommates better and I had been to
Yeah.
school and stuff like that. But I was there to like, if you have the spirit with you, I'm willing to follow you because I believe that you have the spirit. And
Mhm.
if you believe you got the spirit, I believe in you. So let's get it.
Mhm.
And I saw that in you. You had the drive and wanted to get some stuff done. And I said, all right, you got good ideas. Let's do it.
Here's the phone.
I'll follow you. Yeah.
Let's figure out how to make phone calls then. And
Yeah. Okay. Well,
no, that's what I mean by kind of like let me kind of like let me take on something that I wouldn't normally be good at.
mhm.
But just now, like there was a lot of trust. There was a lot of like, yeah, obviously you can do it better.
No,
You'll figure it out.
I'm
You're
happy
fine.
we both grew together.
No,
And
like I said, I appreciated that a lot. That did mean a lot to me, and I think that that was, like I said, like all my companions are awesome. I was very lucky to serve where I did, but I think that was probably the most heaven sent
okay.
transfer for me.
Well, I was happy to be your
That's where you're like,
companion.
Jace, you've never talked to me after the mission. All of a sudden, you're like, oh yeah, you were awesome. Like you never told me that.
No, it's how it goes, and that's if I'm honest, that's one thing I like. I'm sitting here listening to you and hearing your opinion on me as a missionary and our experience together, sharing 24 hours a day together.
Yeah.
This is years of my mind thinking about this, and actually having
Hmm.
it happen right now is really exciting. It's fun to hear,
Yeah.
and I had a great transfer with you. It was
Hmm.
good. There's some missionaries that I don't care to like talk to ever again.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
weren't one of those guys. I was happy to.
That I was very happy that that wasn't the case because I'm sure for many missionaries, I was the I'm okay if I don't meet that guy again,
I
but I
think
don't
you
blame him.
would surprise yourself with. You were a good missionary, a good companion, and I think if you were reaching out to all of them and getting their opinions in similar fashion, um, I think you'd have mostly good reports. Maybe,
Well,
I
thank
was
you.
honest. I recounted with Kyte, like my first impression of that guy was like so
He needs to
weird,
calm
and
it
just like
down.
it was an experience to have that
Hmm.
first impression just like set the tone for our relationship over the
Yeah.
next transfer immediately.
Hmm.
Because sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
oh hey elder, yeah, hey elder, good to meet you, or whatever, and you're kind
Both
of
just
shy,
kind of
and then you
calm.
warm up to each other. It was like, boom, hi elder
Yeah.
Brower, I'm so excited to meet you, big old hug, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Oh, oh,
yeah.
oh, no. You're like Quint from the movie Jaws, is like he's sliding into the giant shark. Just, oh no, oh no.
I mean, you've got your idiosyncrasies, and I've got mine.
Yeah, there you
Somebody
go.
wants to touch me and hug me, I'm kind of like,
What are you doing?
yeah, maybe don't
No.
do that, please.
Yeah.
All right, well
If
let's
you don't mind me asking,
oh, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No,
Oh, well, if I don't mind me asking, I'll have to maybe I can just watch the podcast. But Kite's impression, actually, I can just watch the podcast. Never mind.
I wish I could recall better. I don't think we dug into it too much.
Gotcha.
Um,
Just maybe your impression of like getting to Okinawa, and that was kind of part of it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he might have like mentioned a few things. Yeah, just listen to that, and hell, message him one day and be like, "Yo, Kite,
I
give me some more."
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is a loaded question, but you were a year at
Yeah.
that point. You leave Okinawa. Let's get into mostly. I want to jump into post mission, like who are you,
Hmm.
where are you at, your testimony and all that stuff. But anything notable
Hmm.
from the rest of your mission that's like, this is what I want to talk about, or even Kite talked about his mom and brother came and picked him up,
Mm.
and so they showed up at the mission home, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, it was so cool." And
Yeah. I think the I mean there's a lot of cool things scattered with a lot of really good people. I my last area was Amami.
okay, so you went to
So
where
born
Kite
on an
came
island,
from.
died on an island.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had the coolest mission I think,
Uh-huh.
and in the sense of I got to see some of the coolest areas.
Yeah.
A lot of cool people along the way. I think the biggest and most notable thing I remember the last you get to go proselyting one last time with your MTC companion if they were there or someone from your cohort.
Mm.
And I remember just seeing Elder Row and going like, oh dude," and literally like we left the mission house and started like skipping and
Mhm.
jumping and like just we're so excited to see each other and then go proselyte one last time. So I always look back at that of like that was a really big deal. The last big thing is I remember. I mean, all leading up to my mission, right? I sucked at English enough as it was, but then when it came to Japanese, I was always nervous about leaving the door in the morning. I was always nervous to go talk to people. I was always nervous to, you know what I mean? Like just generally anxious about most things. But there was one moment in Fukuoka where I just woke up and I just remember like, man, I cannot wait to get out there and just start talking to people. And it's one of those things where I wish I could get back to that the way I felt then. And again, this is post you as a companion. I think you helped me a lot. And so I think building on that, like there's just this moment of like, I love this. I'm so excited about this. And so that's another thing that I think about a lot. I think about the airplane ride home. I did a fast and then a prayer just like, hey, is that what you wanted me to do? And feeling just, I don't know, have a really strong spiritual experience that way of like, you did what you were supposed to do and now it's time to go home type of thing. And then going back to my chair and passing out. um, Seeing my family for the first time was always it was incredible. I think you get back from mission, you get really busy. I remember one of the other so that was kind of like the last roundup of things, and then I guess just kind of getting back from the mission. I got back. I remember just kind of seeing my family, and I helped my brother move some to North Carolina. Get back. I'm at home, just about ready to start school. And I remember that's like one of the times where I look over where my dad used to sit whenever we'd watch jazz games, his chair. And then I remember the family came over, and our family filled the entire living room. And some people were sitting on the floor, but nobody would sit on that chair. And that kind of being like I like the first time it kind of dawned on me that he was really gone. I think was one of the big things that kind of hit me when I got back. I didn't just serve a mission and not see family for 2 years. Like he's gone, and I think to some extent never really processing that or taking any time to process that on the mission,
Mm.
like led all that moment where it was just really tough. But
It takes years to process something that big too. And where
yeah,
you were a month away from leaving on your mission when that happened, and then you're strictly on a mission. Yeah.
like and it's but I mean it's life. Everyone has stuff like that, but it was a moment where we're like, oh dang, like yeah, no, he's gone.
Hmm.
And so I think my whole life up to that point, I go off and get a bachelor's degree. I met my wife, but she wanted to serve a mission, and so I
Hmm.
never asked her out. I just
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like I was friendly with her. She went and
So
served,
you met her at school. What school?
or I was at school. We met at a singles ward.
Okay.
Um, I was actually her home teacher at the time,
Oh, how
and so
convenient.
but I found out then she's like, oh, I want to serve a mission. I'm like, those are great. Do your thing. And so we were just kind of friends until she left. Not really close friends, even just acquaintances.
Hmm.
Um, she left, kept dating, kept doing school, got a bachelor's degree in human resource management, which is wonderfully useless. It's just more
What
like
school from?
a UVU. I went to UVU.
UVU. Okay.
Wasn't smart enough to get into the big ones. I anyways did that. She got back from her mission, and I gave her 3 weeks until I give her a message through Facebook Messenger, like
Uh,
any gentleman would.
so
Asked her
three
out.
weeks is the right amount of
Is the
time.
right time for me at that
Okay.
specific moment? Yes.
Okay.
Um, Asked her out through Facebook Messenger, and she's like, "Oh yeah, this is a guy who was nice to me. I guess I'll go." And so we ended up getting married. We started dating. Became official in July or January of 2020. 2 months
Oh.
later, everything shuts down,
Uh-huh.
and we are basically like we're in. We basically just like she was going to BYU. I was at UVU, but we lived pretty close to each other still with our
Mm.
apartment situation. And basically, our lives were. I worked night shifts too,
Mm.
so I worked weird. I worked 36 hours, 12-hour shifts at a time. So there would be like 4 days in a row where I wouldn't work. And
And this
basically, life would
was
be.
what was this job?
It was a psychiatric technician. So
Okay.
I worked with. I worked at the psych ward as basically a CNA for lack of a better word.
Okay.
Um, Great time, great opportunity to kind of do some homework while everybody was asleep and do school at the same time too. So it worked out really well that way. Um, yeah, she. So basically, like life was, I would go to work, do homework at school, and then I would just be with her until midnight. Was every single
Okay.
day, and then we ended up getting married in June. So
Hmm.
again, very, you know, at least I knew her for some time, but we got married in like 6 months.
Okay. Okay.
Very very standard that way too. Uh, no, Dara's awesome. Love her to death. She's the greatest person to me. She's the one who's, it's not normal to be this, like, to read as much as you do, to like reading as much as you do, and to be this bad at reading as you are.
Yeah. So
And
she's
she
a
did
little bit
that.
like me. She made fun of you, but like
Yeah, like,
with love.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Maybe a little less teasing because she's very pure that way. But
mhm. Hmm.
I we're working on that, and she's teasing me a little bit more nowadays,
What
and
was
that's
her
good.
name?
Dara, like
Dara.
Sarah, but just with a D.
Okay.
But yeah, so she's wonderful. Like just different things like that. She just again, you kind of meet that person where you're like, I don't know. Around her again. We were married for a couple years. I never talked about my dad. Still up to that point, I just kind of always kept myself busy and just tried
Mm.
not to think about it much because that's just I think how I was wired to some extent. And she's the one who kind of like started helping me process that a little bit more. After a few
Mhm.
years of marriage, she just kind of got to the point where I could talk about things with her, and I think I'm in a really good spot now. I think largely thanks to her with that.
Mhm.
Just a big sweetheart. We had our first son Joel, well, our only son Joel,
Yeah.
2022,
Okay.
um, July 2022, and then yeah, I finished
So you
school.
basically had like 1 year and some change together,
Hmm.
and then 9 months pregnant, and then at your 2 year mark, you guys
Yeah,
have a kid. Okay.
have a kiddo, and then uh, finish bachelor's degree, go start a master's degree. Um, I was also working at the time too, so it was pretty busy time. Nothing too crazy. I was up at Utah State just getting a master's in HR and stuff like that. And then we did an internship in Oklahoma, which
Okay.
we loved. Dara's from the South, so she
Okay.
loved that experience. Um, got back, got pregnant with our second kiddo, Scout, and Scout was
Mhm.
born 2024 in
Okay.
December. So she's about six, almost 7 months now. So she's just a big ball of fun. She's super smiley, really lucky.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, we finished that internship, finished school, and now I'm working the job that I am now, just as like a data analyst, HR with like HR related topics
Mhm.
for OC Tanner. Great gig. Um, yeah, and now where we're at now. So that's kind of the whole adventure.
Okay.
Bought a
And so
house,
now I was gonna say
all
you
that
guys
fun
have
stuff.
landed where?
We're in Spanish Fork, Utah.
So
So back to
Spanish
where I
Fork,
was. It
bought a
was
house,
the
full circle around the whole
full
world, and then
circle. We're
back to
back in
Spanish Fork.
Spanish.
Okay.
It's yeah, great journey, great life. Spanish
So
Fork.
she's from the south,
Yeah,
and her
yeah.
family is still there, and you're really close to your family here in Spanish Fork,
Hmm.
and you guys go back and see her family every now and then,
So
or
her
how's that?
family actually moved. The reason why I met her is because her family moved to Utah.
Oh, convenient.
So just very lucky. So
Okay.
you end up meeting that way
Okay.
and just lucky. So
That's cool. Oh, the throes of two-child parenthood
yeah, yeah. That's.
is
Would you say that's harder than one? The second one.
um
And what are
no.
your kids' names again? Was it
Yeah, so I've
Nash,
got Bo and Benny.
Bo, and Benny? That's adorable. That's
Yeah.
adorable.
So my first boy is 3.5, Bo,
Hmm.
BO. And
That's cute.
then Benny just turned a year recently. And I don't think that obviously two kids is a change, but we weren't ready for our first. So going from no kids to one kid was pretty life changing and difficult.
Hmm.
Really hard to wrap my mind around mentally.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once my mind was wrapped around it, and by the time we had Benny, it was we're in parent mode. I'm in dad mode. I kind of
Gotcha.
know what's going on, so it was an easier transition, but still a trip, man. Having two
Yeah.
kids, it's an
Wild.
adventure for sure.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna take a stab and say that you are active and have remained active, but am I am I
You are
shooting in the
right.
dark? Okay.
You are right. Um, I think to some extent, right, there's been a lot of the you brought up the idea is you pop your head out of the bubble and then you get back in.
Mhm.
I think a lot for me was, as you kind of grow up, some of your friends start to either leave or have really sincere and genuine questions about either church history or certain policies and things like that that you know, I make sense and you start to think about them more. And
Mhm.
so, for me myself, I've tried my best to, listen to, help out wherever I can.
Mhm.
And even I've jumped into, reading a lot of church history, a lot of biographies and different things like that to try to be as informed as possible and make sure I know the best that I can to some, like know the
Mhm.
history to the best that I can. And obviously, yeah, I still believe. That being said, there's a time in my life where I think you see Joseph Smith, there's like the movie the church put out a long time ago, Joseph Smith the Prophet or something like
Mhm.
that. And you like watching something like that now would be a little more tricky because you're like, well, we've missed a couple things here that might be really important for people to know.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like this is a really cool
You
version of
painted it strategically so that it.
yeah. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? And I think the church again, like the Joseph Smith letters are being released to everybody, definitely doing its part in like making sure, hey, here's access as much access as you can have to church history,
Mhm.
so you can be as informed as possible. Um, again, I think it did the best that it could, but I think they're doing more now to let people kind of see everything to the best of their abilities to and make their own
That
decisions and
evolution is
conclusions.
still
Yeah,
happening. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So doing the like I again, I've had moments where I'm like, I don't know if I believe this. This
Mhm.
is really hard. Um, why would it be done that way if it is true? You know, like
Mhm.
I think those are pretty standard questions. I think a lot of people will have and struggle with. Um, yeah, but I think the thing that I always kind of go back to is when I pray, I do feel like I'm connecting with the deity. I do think that
Mhm.
there's somebody who hears me and has answered prayers very specifically and has offered peace. I think most
Mhm.
importantly, I do think that there's a I do think that there's a Christ because as I've followed him to the best of my abilities, I felt peace and I've also seen myself do things and become things I never thought I could. Again, I
Mhm.
mentioned like I felt like a pretty insecure kid, a pretty dumb kid. In a lot of ways, I still am that. But I do think that to some extent, through Christ, I've been able to do things that I shouldn't have or shouldn't. Like I'm not. I don't think I'd be
Never
capable of
believed that you
otherwise.
could, or.
Yeah, I never believed I could. But also, just I think care more about other people than I think I'm like evolution would have me care as
Mm.
I've followed what Christ has done. So I do believe that there's a Christ. I think the next big thing, right, is do I believe in Book of Mormon and thus Joseph Smith as a prophet? I think that that's something that's been more challenged in recent years than
Mm.
ever before. Uh, while there's a lot of frustrations that I have with decisions that he made, things that he said or done, especially Brigham Young, probably the most
Mhm.
problematic of the bunch. But like, there's a lot of things that are hard about that. That being said, how do I feel when I read it, and how do I feel when I pray about it? And the more I research about it, the more and more it kind of feels like I don't think that he could have made this up.
Mm.
I don't think that he never believed it. I think he always believed it as came out, and I don't think that he was capable of writing it or doing any of this. I
Mm.
think somehow Joseph Smith may have been dumber than I am, but he managed to do some pretty crazy things. And he did some dumb things too. I'm not trying to take away any of that either. Like
Sure.
he did some dumb things too. You look in the history; he's a pretty brash guy, but like there's some historical things you're like, yeah, I don't know how this could have been done. There's some things that are really hard to believe, but I don't think that he wrote the book. I do think that there is something to that too. I do think that there
Mm.
were gold plates and stuff like that. But
Sure.
anyways, leading that down to like, I do when I read it, I do feel like that same deity that I connect with when I pray confirms me that that is actually that is true, right? That it was written,
Mm.
or not that it was written, but it was translated and all that. So I think past that, I don't know what I necessarily believe in. Like I don't know, you hear stuff about like, oh yeah, and like Missouri is Adam and Beyond or whatever, like
Mhm.
sacred land. Like I don't know about that. I don't
Sure.
have a testimony in that, and I don't like. I don't know if you do great, and maybe I just need to do a better job of caring more and getting to that spot or something like that. But
Well,
you
you
hear stuff like
also
that, and you're like, I don't know about that, but I do know these other things. If that makes sense.
you sound like you've been on the journey of continued education, and maybe stuff like that comes with continued education. You know.
Yeah, no, like not that it would never get there, or I may never believe that, but it's just more of like a I know what I do believe, and I need to maybe I should do a better job of trying to. Again, I look back to that moment in my mission where I was like getting out the door and just ecstatic, and how
Mhm.
happy I felt with that. And I want to get back to that stage. I think that that would be important. I think that that's probably where I was closest to Christ. But
So you
there's still some other things.
you trust your former self enough to let it help you steer into the future.
A degree, right? Like I think that it like I can't deny that I've felt certain things and that it's been
Mm,
consistent. And if I look back at my life, like it's tried and tested and it's happened repetitively.
mm,
And therefore, if I want to have that same peace, if I want to have that same kind of joy, I ought to do what I was doing at one point to refill
mm.
that.
So
And
you
it's not even
continue
just
to
like the peace I.
input.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, we kind of glitched there for a second. I was
Yeah.
saying, and you've continued to input, expecting and hoping for and receiving the output of peace and continued consistency of, yeah, this is well.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it, right? You learn new things, things get challenged. You maybe need to reframe things or restructure the way that you believe.
Hmm.
And I think that that's important to an extent. But yeah, like I think you do that. But at the end of the day, I when I'm on my knees, I still believe.
Hmm.
And so I've had enough experiences with that to where I'm like, I think I know if I went right. If I said, I think I'm done and I'm going to quit, this is ridiculous. Part of me goes, but I think if I prayed, I might actually get told that that's not the right way to do. You know what I mean? Like, I do think that there
Hmm.
might be somebody who reaches out and says, that may not be the best thing for you.
Hmm.
And sure enough, when I have, even at moments where I've doubted the most that I've ever doubted, that's still been pretty consistent. It's something where more than just the feeling of like, oh, this just feels comfortable. I don't know if I'd ever say at any point when I've lived, the gospel that I've really felt like just like, oh, this is just comfortable. I'm in my bubble, right? I think that that's when you talk about like traditions.
Hmm.
Traditions can make you feel comfortable. Culture can make you feel comfortable. I think to some extent, right?
But this transcends that. You have more of a internal conviction through.
Yeah, like I
Mm,
know if I go forward, I don't actually believe it's going to be more comfortable.
mm,
But I do think that I will feel peace.
mm.
I don't know if I'm
And
going to feel
that's
acceptance, but I think I'm going to feel something that's beyond that to some extent and something that's very important to me. And so that's kind of where I'm at with everything. Um yeah.
peace is hard earned in this life, and I'm happy that you continue to find it. Um, some follow up questions.
Yeah.
Um, those two would be: do you feel spiritually gifted in order to have this conviction and this? You say that you feel this deity and stuff like that. I'm curious if you feel like that is a gift of yours that has been given to you in this life, and do you feel like your belief in God is influenced a lot by your dad's passing?
Yeah. No, two great questions. I think so to kind of tackle the first one, so just to make sure that I get this right, like um actually sorry, could you repeat just to sorry, kind of
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go as far as like patriarchal blessings, there's people who
okay, the
are,
spiritual
are
gifts that lead
yeah,
to that.
gifted. I'm
Yeah.
just because you've heard plenty of other people's experiences, and some people are don't need to know anything about the church. They just go, I can feel it in my heart.
Yeah.
And so other people have to know everything about the church to then make a decision.
Yeah.
Just curious where
Um
you feel like you're at.
I think a little bit of both. Right? I do think that there is something to like I think the first experience that I had with the Book of Mormon wasn't
Mm,
intentional. I remember at one point, I think I was like 12, and I was like, I really need to get to bed. I need to read something to make me fall asleep. And so I opened up the Book of Mormon for like the first time and started reading, and I felt this like under overwhelming like blanket of peace that I've never felt in my life. Where I'm like, there's never been anything to replicate this feeling. No, like being with
mm,
other people that appreciate me or love of somebody. Like it was like this is something out of this world type of feeling.
mm. Cool.
And so that was like I would probably attribute that to what you're talking about of this like ability to just have faith. Because
Mhm.
at that moment I was pretty like this feels awesome and I want this, right? So
Okay.
I'd say that that would probably be to some extent a spiritual gift of faith because I don't think everybody has that type of situation. I think very lucky to that extent, right, to feel it to that degree. Um, but then I think there's also part of it too, right, where there's a healthy degree of skepticism too.
Mhm.
I think that you've kind of developed as you're older and stuff like that that I think are necessary. And I think I've been challenged a lot with faith all throughout my life, and I challenge myself with it too, right? I'll
Mhm.
be thinking about things like that's just ridiculous. That can't be. That's no. You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
think a combination of the two where you have to search some things out and have to try to reframe the way that you believe or but I think more than anything else it's like as I've been challenged it's made me go, well, what do I know is actually true and why do I know it's true
Mhm.
versus just I just believe because. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I think it's narrowed what my faith actually like is and where it belongs and stuff like that. As far as my dad goes, like the passing of my dad, that one is like a I don't know.
Mm.
Like it could be. Like I'd be open to the idea of like, well, hey, maybe your dad's passed away, and that's kind of why you hold on to the hope of an afterlife and seeing him
Mhm.
again, type of thing, right? Like maybe that's you're so blinded by that that's where that's the only way that you can think,
Mhm.
and that could be the case. I would say like the idea of an afterlife, in all honesty, doesn't necessarily actually intrigue me. It's a weird thing to say. Like the idea of living forever is scarier to me than just everything ending.
Mhm.
If that makes sense, like
Hmm.
closing a book feels better than the book never closing. So
Sure. Yeah.
that's I don't know, like that could be true.
Makes
I
sense
don't
to tiny
know.
minds like ours.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know, but I don't know if living forever really actually seems appealing.
Mhm.
Obviously, if I could see my dad at least once, I want to see him and talk to him, right? That'd be great. But I don't know
Mhm.
if the idea of living forever actually is anything that I want right now, based off of how I view immortality from my
Sure.
my frame of reference.
That's fair. My wife is quite like I guess you'd say in tune with like ancestry
Yeah.
and feeling their presence and their influence in her life. And so I think some of her, just for instance, some of her like belief is fueled by her feeling that influence in her life.
Okay.
So I was curious if that kind of played some role, but it sounds like it does a little bit. But
I think his legacy to some extent of like, I mean, he believed it. He was a good man, so maybe that's part of. If I want to become a good man, there's a degree if I want to mimic that, right?
sure. Well, at
But
the
yeah, as
very
far
least,
as
that's a
like,
that's a foundational thing that you can fall back on too when you are
yeah,
going through a more discovery phase. Let's say like I love my dad and trust my dad quite a bit, and
yeah,
you can always
exactly.
have that in your back pocket to help you through a tough time. Let's say.
Hmm.
Okay, man. Last words, last thoughts. I'm gonna try like hell to figure out if we can save that middle brick.
Yeah, that'd be great if we
Um,
could.
yeah, I apologize. Thanks for being the guinea pig for doing it this way.
No, no,
I've learned some
happy to do
stuff,
it. If anything, I'm just
and
happy to chat with you again, my dude.